Good evening, my dear colleagues. Welcome to Inget Zoom Series 37. Today, our guest is a dear friend of mine, Esma Şenel. Esma Hocam has been working as an EFL instructor since 2011. She holds an MA in English language and literature. Her research interests include creativity, creative writing, language anxiety, and educational technologies. She has international and national conference presentations and publications. She was awarded the TESOL Professional Development Scholarship in 2021. This evening, the title of her talk is Creating Creative Students. Thank you, dear Esma Hocam, for accepting to be our speaker this evening, and welcome again. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Hocam. It's my honor and pleasure to be here and to be a member of Inget family. So thank you for your kind invitation and giving me opportunity to present here. Okay, so welcome again, everybody. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I think you can see the full screen now, huh? Okay, so the aim of my presentation here today is to give implications on how to teach and develop creative thinking skills and how to promote creativity in English language classroom. So today we'll be talking about creativity, what it is, how it occurs, common misconceptions about creativity, characteristics of creative individuals, creative thinking, what promotes creativity, assessment of creativity, and some reflections. So don't worry, I will keep it short as much as I can do. Okay, so before starting, let's meet. So please use chat box and add an adjective describing your personality with the same letter as your name and something you like, beginning with the same letter. So I'm Ernest Esma and I like elephants. What about you? Annoying. Magical mark, hate meat. Very well. Sensitive Şebnem and where's the rest? Okay, I think Şebnem Hocam doesn't want to write anything. It's awesome, I said. There was also active and ambitious, I said. Okay. Easygoing Eda, easygoing Orhan. Okay, so well, thanks for now. Okay. So what is creativity? So what do you know about this concept? What comes to your mind? Thinking about things in new ways, thinking differently, ideas, inspiration, coming up with new ideas. Try to do something good in your way. Okay, Egemen Hocam. So, first of all, creativity is thinking outside of the box. So, it's a very popular definition of creativity, actually. So, what do we mean by thinking outside of the box? Differently. Be yourself, express yourself in a different way. Not in line with the norms. Yes, Aydın Hocam. So it refers to think imaginatively, using new ideas instead of traditional, usual, or the expected ones. Okay, so it's producing something original, novel, new, or valuable. So producing new solutions to problems, being imaginative and unusual, and seeing the world different from the others. Okay, so how creativity occurs? So do you know this man? Have you ever heard about him? So who wants to pronounce his name? Aydın Hocam. So if you want, you can unmute yourself and pronounce it. No. Yes. Okay. So Mehai, chicks and Mehai. Okay, that's the pronunciation. Yes. So he is one of the most important figures in creativity research. So according to Chicks and Mehai, creativity occurs in 5 different stages. So the first stage is preparation. So it is focusing on the problem and gathering resources, including information, clues, or facts. So the next stage is incubation. That is stepping away from the problem and let the ideas steer. So it is an unconscious process of the individuals. So insight is the illumination stage, which means, aha, I found it. And evaluation is deciding and judging if insight is valuable and asking, should I continue or stop here? And elaboration is the last stage that refers to translating the insight into its final word. Okay, so there are common misconceptions about creativity. So people sometimes hold tacit beliefs or theories about the nature of creativity, which can have some negative impacts on attempts to nurture creativity in an educational context. So in fact, these beliefs are different from what research suggests. So, for example, many people think that creativity is limited to art, but research has found that it can be applied to every subject. It's also considered as a pure talent by many of the scholars or people, but actually it's a kind of skill to be learned. So it can be considered as fun, but actually it is a hard work. It requires hard work. So Csikszentmihalyi emphasizes the importance of having a playful attitude while remaining disciplined in the creativity process. So it's also taught that it's creativity just focuses on the originality, but research has found that your process or your product should be both original and valuable. And it's taught that no prior knowledge is needed, but actually field of knowledge is necessary in the creative process. And it's also considered as a major breakthrough, but actually it is a thinking skill. Okay, so do you have creative students? So what are their distinctive features? I hope. Okay, Mark hocam. Always original, confident, brave. Your son and your daughter, you are lucky, Ali hocam. Funny. Like new things. Risk takers. Patient. They have endless, limitless imagination. Yes. Unusual. Not yet shaped. Yes, hocam. I agree with you. Especially in our cultural context. Sensitive, ambitious, be able to express themselves. Okay, so very well. So you already gave all the answers that I look for. So creative person should be curious, autonomous, imaginative, self-confident, ambitious, risk-taker, independent, energetic, passionate, and also rebellious. So I found this information in the Boston Globe. So it's written that 81% of corporate leaders in America say creativity is an essential skill for 21st century workforce. And these business leaders also look for collaboration, problem solving, and oral communication skills. So creativity is related to problem solving. So it is also considered as a problem solving process. So that's why problem solving is probably one of the most important skills that we can teach our learners in any subject or in any set of skills. So we need to be creative to solve the problems that we already have, we will have, and we can't even imagine. Okay, so what do you think about this classroom? Like our classes, okay. Extremely boring, non-stimulating. So every individual has creative potential. So your students may have limited language skills, but discovering and improving creativity depends on us as teachers. So by establishing classroom environments in which the development of creativity is fostered from the very beginning, the experience of language learning will be enhanced, and you need to make students think more and more about how they could go further in their thinking and how great that could be. So, and just allow them to run with something as well. So rather than shutting them off too quickly. Okay. So creative thinking is the creation or generation of ideas, solutions, products to the given situation or the given problem. According to Guilford, there are 4 important components of creative thinking skills. So these are fluency, flexibility, originality, and elaboration. So normally it is a creativity test measuring the divergent production, but it can be used as a brainstorming strategy in our lessons, and it can be adapted to in every subject. So here, fluency refers to generate as many ideas as possible. Okay, so for example, create a list of things that are hot. So flexibility refers to generate a wide range of ideas, like categorize the hot things. And originality refers to seek new, unusual, and different ideas, like invent a new animal. And elaboration refers to give specific details to enhance your product. So here, I would like to share an example from my classes. So I applied this in one of my classes. So first, with my students, we created a list of animals that are wild or domestic. And later, we categorize them wild or domestic animals that can fly, run fast, or move slowly. And from these brainstorming lists, they created a new animal. And then they gave details about their animals. So like, as you see, crocodile and chikota. Hocam, they found, I think they found them on the internet, or actually they say they did this one in a Photoshop program. And so, you know, my students are university students, so it might not be possible to do this with primary or secondary level, but it's possible to do in tertiary level, actually. Yes, they can draw also. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. Okay, so as I said, this was okay. So this was a creativity test, normally measuring divergent production, but you can adapt it in this way, and you can use it as a brainstorming technique. Okay, so to reveal the creative potential, there are also some other techniques. So Scamper is one of these. So it's a very popular technique, and every letter here, as you see, stands for a different component. So I don't know, did you like the picture? Mouth-watering picture. Okay, so these are, you have an original idea. So you can replace a part of your product with another one. You can combine ideas or products into more efficient output, or you can adapt an existing idea that might not have worked before to solve a problem. You can modify an aspect of your problem by minifying or magnifying and see if it gives you any insight or adds any value. So you can put current products that were intended for a specific purpose to another use to solve the problems. You can remove or simplify a process or idea or a product to improve it. And you can reverse the direction of the process. You can do things completely against its original purpose. So you can use these questions while you are using this technique. So I use this technique also for story writing in our English language classes. So for example, you can substitute a different character in the story. You can combine two steps of the solution. You can add something to the main problem to make it more complex, or you can eliminate a minor character in a story. Okay, so what promotes creativity? What should we do to promote creativity? Okay, so if our students feel insecure and lack a sense of personal competence, this acts as a barrier to the creativity process. So building of self-esteem and encouraging students are important factors to promote creativity. So we need to value and celebrate learners' contributions. So you can develop codes of behavior and classroom procedures promoting creativity. So you can encourage risk-taking and treat mistakes as learning opportunities. So here I'd like to show sample activities to build up self-esteem. So one of them is self-esteem fan, that's here. So give each child a sheet and demonstrate how to make a fan. And they should have as many folds as the letters in their first names. They write the letters of their names at the top of each section of the fan, vertically, as you see. So they should find a positive adjective about themselves, which starts with each letter. So like, for me, it's enjoyable, smart, modest, and admirable. So children can compare their fans and say why they have chosen these activities, these adjectives. For example, I think I'm enjoyable because I always do funny things. Okay, so another one is word tennis. So for this, you need to use a wrinkled paper ball, so it's not dangerous. Divide the children into pairs, and one student serves and says like, I'm good at swimming. So his or her partner hits the ball back and says, I'm good at dancing. So at the end, students report back to their partner to check they can remember, like, you're good at dancing, you're good at swimming. So they can also tell the class that Esma is good at singing. So we are both good at swimming. Okay. So it's important to ask questions that can catch your students' interest and extend their thinking. So you also need to give them enough time, enough thinking time to answer questions, and you need to provide opportunities for them to ask interesting and challenging questions themselves. So to differentiate questions from easier to more challenging, it might be beneficial to use Bloom's revised taxonomy of thinking skills. So if you remember, there are higher order thinking skills and lower order thinking skills in the taxonomy. So lower order thinking skills are essential to do with recall, identification, and basic comprehension. So higher order thinking skills are more complex and they require greater cognitive effort. So developing lower order thinking skills is important for foreign language learning, especially in the early stages. However, if your lessons don't go beyond lower order thinking skills, this can cause demotivation and your students can feel bored. So lessons that include higher order thinking skills make learning more engaging and memorable. Okay, so this is an example of how you can use Bloom's revised taxonomy to plan questions and scaffold your students' thinking based on a story. So it starts from lower order thinking skills, as you see, and goes through the higher order thinking skills. Okay, so it's also important to teach how to make connections. So seeing relationships between things generates ideas and underpins creative thinking. So we need to encourage our children or our students to make connections between inside and outside of the classroom, present and past learning, ideas learned from different resources, English and their own language or culture. So you can use mind maps to explore ideas and to foster a creative mindset. Okay, so there are also some sample activities to make connections. So one of them is comparative movements. So you can use similes and give children sentences to complete. Like English is a sandwich because. My school is like a fun fair because. So homework, I completed this. Homework is a delicious meal when you are not when you aren't hungry. And another one to make connections is to how many ways. So you can choose an everyday subject such as paper clip, plastic cup, or ruler. So children work in pairs and brainstorm all the different things they can use the object for. So they can use Guilford's system or Scamper technique to brainstorm ideas. So they can also draw pictures to illustrate their ideas. So for example, you can use a ruler as a sword. Okay, so when students learn new concepts or subject matter, they often experience a sense of uncertainty and until they make sense of the new information. So critical reflection helps students assess the validity and value of their creative product. So we need to teach our children, our students, to evaluate and reflect critically on their own ideas. So last week, Betül Hocam told a lot about this. How can we reflect ourselves critically? So these are also some ideas to teach your students how to critically reflect themselves. So one of them is reflective continuum. So give children a sheet with 4 to 6 areas for reflection and self-assessment on a continuum. Like, I didn't make an effort, I did my best. I didn't use interesting words, I used interesting words. So your learners, your students reflect on the work they have produced and mark where they think they are on the continuum for each area. You can also use self-assessment dictation. So ask students to make 3 columns in their notebooks and write yes, so, or no at the top of each one. So dictate sentences, for example, I worked hard, I cooperated, blah, blah. And students listen and write the sentences in the column, okay? They think they applies to their work, okay? So they then compare and talk about the results. So how many sentences, for example, in the so column can they move to the yes column next time? Okay, so how can we assess creative learning? So it's highly important to assess how well students have thought around the problem or around the process. So we shouldn't just focus on the final product. So here I shared you a creative learning scale developed by Ellis and Bars. So they developed this generic rubric and an observation form to informally assess creative learning. So the black parts in the rubric have been developed by Center for Literacy in Primary Education in the United Kingdom. So this was further developed by Ellis and Bars, and as you see, there are some colorful parts in the checklist. So this was a model for creative learning assessment comprising collaboration, communication, knowledge, understanding, strategies, skills. Okay, so these strengths form the key headings within the creative learning assessment observation framework. So that's the framework. That's the observation form, actually. So I wrote the statements here because it can be difficult to read them here. So as you see here, there is creative content. So students are evaluated for their confidence, independence, enjoyment, collaboration and communication, creativity, strategies and skills, knowledge and understanding, reflection and evaluation, and areas for further development. Also, you can visit Center for Creative Learning to find more valid and reliable measurements. So that's the I couldn't. Okay, I will copy and paste later through chat box. So there is a creativity index in the website, and there are more than 70 products in the website. So you can visit and you can choose something here for you, for your learners, appropriate for your learners, or what you want to assess. Okay, so some reflections. So as we discussed through the beginning of the presentation, there are benefits of creative thinking skills and creativity in language education. First of all, it increases self-esteem and motivation. So it helps engaging students in learning process actively. So it leads to innovation. It prepares students with the flexible skills for the future. But on the other hand, there are some challenges. So when students struggle to generate ideas, scaffold them. So you can provide selection of ideas for them to choose, then ask them to make some adaptation of their own. So when students struggle to persist, divide the challenges into smaller tasks because the big picture is sometimes too intimidating. And when students struggle to transfer knowledge into new contexts, be a role model. So provide them in a lesson on the skill or knowledge needed and demonstrate how it connects to the task. So I'd like to finish my presentation with a great quotation from Albert Einstein. So creativity is contagious, pass it on. Okay, so these are my references. And I'd like to thank for listening. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Esma Hocam. It was a great presentation. Aysel Hocam has a question in the chat box. Would you like me to read it or would you like to have a look at it?
Okay, I'm looking at it now. So I always wonder, should we assess creativity? So you don't need to actually, but if you want to learn more about your students, you can. But if you don't want, I think it's not a problem for me. So I don't focus on the assessment procedure. So I'm not so interested in about the creativity level of my students. Instead, I'm focusing on what they can manage. This is enough for me.
Esma Hocam, can I add something here?
Sure.
Assessment has a very positive meaning embedded in it. Now, this is, of course, jargon. I mean, if you ask John in the street, there is no difference between evaluation, testing, assessment. But for us, evaluation is more strict and traditional, but assessment is more like based on the process, based on the development of the child. So observation, for example, is an excellent assessment technique, or interviews with the child or with the student, having an interview, having a chat, even an informal one. So I think we can assess creativity, but we can't evaluate it. I'm going to make that distinction. This is my personal opinion, of course, because evaluation is so traditional, so summative. It only looks at the product. It doesn't care about the process, where assessment is more like formative. It focuses its attention on the process, the development. And the child or the student will definitely need some kind of feedback. Don't you think? So if we don't assess, how are we going to give feedback? This is my personal opinion. I just wanted to contribute. Aysel Hocam, of course, you can unmute yourself and say
Okay,
your
thanks,
point.
Aydan Hocam. I'm not quite sure I'm gonna put my thoughts in my words, but let me try my best. Even we give some positive feedback to our students, our pupils, but in a way, shouldn't we say that look in this way? Right? This is the question in my mind, even if it's a positive. And because creativity, in a sense, they should find their way. um, uh, put themselves in their work. I mean, that's why I'm not quite sure, should we assess, not evaluate, even assess our students' creativity, or we just encourage them, do it, you're gonna find your way, or something else.
Esma Hocam, would you like to answer that?
Hocam, I agree. I believe, yes, you wrote here that if we have enough time at the end of the session, so we might not have enough time to assess creativity during the sessions. So then you can create a virtual classroom for you. For example, for more than 5 years, I've been using Edmodo actively, and I have a creative writing classroom there. And I check my students' product online out of school, and I gave them feedback. So they also have some kind of assessment, peer assessment and self-assessment checklists. So they work together, they assess themselves. So it might be hard for children or at secondary level or maybe high school. So it might not be hard for high school, but it might be hard for primary and secondary level. So for this, maybe you can use the ones that I shared here, like self-dictation or another kind of checklists.
Okay, Aydın Hocam and Esma, thanks for sharing your idea. And Esma, by the way, before I mute myself, thanks for your presentation. It was really great and inspiring.
Thank you,
You're
Hocam.
welcome.
I said, Hocam, thank you very much for your contribution. I
Thanks a lot.
still think that we should assess, because
Yes.
students need some kind of feedback. It doesn't have to be evaluative. Even your sentence that you said, you're doing fine. I mean, this is, oh, what a great idea. Or, oh, geez, it's a very different animal. What does it eat? You know, that kind of thing is a feedback, showing that we appreciate the students' creativity. And as you know, I'm a big fan of teaching English to children. And I think children are so creative. They are more creative than adults, believe me.
Yes.
They can create miracles when you work with them, if you give them enough time and if you give them the space, because they hate being creative sitting at a table, you know, at a desk. They need to, you know, just move, move around, do things. They're just like little Einsteins. Yes. Özlem Hocam is raising her hand. Özlem Hocam, please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I remember myself reading an article or watching a webinar about this topic. We can assess and measure creativity in 3 different types: cognitive variables, environmental variables, and one more, I think, personality variables. And cognitive variables can be assessed as intelligence, knowledge, technical skills, thinking styles, divergent and
Convergent thinking.
thinking. And environmental variables, I think, political issues and environmental topics. And personality variables are about personal skills. In 3 different types, we can measure and assess them.
Thank
I
you very
attended a
much.
webinar about this.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution, Özlem Hocam.
Orhan Hocam asked the question.
Yes, Orhan
in the chat
Hocam,
box.
would you like to ask it orally, or do you want us to read the question from the chat box?
Okay,
okay,
so
go ahead and answer it,
Okay,
Esma.
okay,
Okay.
hocam.
Yes.
Now I cannot find where I wrote it. So
Do you
just
have a
to
specific
clarify my
activity or
question.
way
Yes.
through?
Do you, Esma hocam, I mean, well, we are all running after magic things in our classrooms. So do you have a specific activity or way through which you foster creativity in your class?
so hocam, at the beginning of each semester, each module, first I'm using this self-esteem fan. So it even works with adults. And also I use word tennis. But generally I use these techniques I explained in writing lessons. So I employ some creative writing activities and students like it.
Yeah.
So I have a creative, as I stated before, I have a creative writing class on Edmodo. So because we have a syllabus, you know, we have a pacing. So sometimes the people, our administrators, just ask us to cover the things. So I say, okay, I cover the things at school, but I have my virtual classroom, so I do whatever I want there. So I created an online class, online creative writing class. So every week I upload something different, and they turn in their assignments. So I give feedback. So they give themselves feedbacks. So as I said, they have self-assessment and peer assessment worksheets. So I generally apply these creativity activities in writing classes, but there are also some any other things that we can do.
Hocam, may I ask another question?
Orhan Hocam,
Sure.
have you attended Nick Peachy's session? I don't recall you being there. Nick Peachy gave
No,
wonderful
I couldn't.
ideas,
Yes.
Yeah,
vocabulary
I guess I missed
level.
it, hocam.
Yeah, we have the video. Don't forget that if you visit our YouTube channel, you can watch it. And I think it was a brilliant session, full of
Yes.
creative
Okay,
ideas.
I will.
Yes.
Hocam, I have another question actually to Esma hocam.
Mhm.
Hocam, have you ever experienced that, you know, have you ever observed, let's say, some different things from your students when you set them free? I mean, have you observed that they created something that surprised you?
So especially actually the one that I showed, the animals, I was shocked. So I couldn't imagine to find out such kind of varieties. So there were some any other animals that they created, but I just chose two of them here. So I was amazed when I checked them, and they also gave details about these animals, so very different characteristics, peculiarities of these animals. So I was shocked. So that was the one I remembered actually.
In fact, that
very nice.
activity works
Very
with
nice.
children as well.
Yes.
With
True,
little
very true.
children, when I asked them to draw a different animal, well, I gave one example, of course, because with young children, it is very, very difficult to give the instructions very clearly. So you always need to come up with an example. They have come up with excellent, brilliant ideas. But in addition to what I said to Ayseloja's question, after they created their animal, I gave feedback by asking further questions, such as, where does it live? See, to foster creativity, they have created something, but they need to also come up with some reasonable ideas behind that. I said, what does it eat? Does it sleep? How does it sleep? Show me. Of course, I mean, with young learners, they can't express themselves through linguistic means. So you always say, show me, demonstrate. Okay, it's marvelous to watch children to come up with all this. Well, what does it eat, for example? If you have a carnivore and omnivore, what is it going to eat? A meat or vegetables? So they need to also think that. So creativity cannot be nonsense creativity. Okay, so with children as well, you always come up with further questions and kind of encourage them to think further, more creative, even more creatively.
Yes.
And yours, I was amazed to hear some of the ideas that they had. Geez. Well, for designing a classroom, yes. Oh, yes. I totally agree with Aysel Hocam. They need to feel safe in the classroom. They need to trust each other. They need to trust the teacher. Otherwise, they're not going to share their ideas. If they think that they're going to be a laugh matter in the classroom, they're not going to say anything. They're not going to do anything. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Defne Hocam, you're with us, I believe. Are you still with us? Yes. Remember, you had once a session on creative activities, and I remember one of your remarks so clearly. You said, when you give students a creative activity, you also need to give them time, because creativity doesn't come in a rush.
Yes, it doesn't happen once.
Yeah, okay. So, Esma Hocam, I know that Turkish English teachers always have this excuse: I don't have time. Because there is the syllabus that I have to cover, there's this, all that kind of BS, whatever. So, can you give one suggestion to convince these teachers that creativity is worth the time? One sentence to convince them. You have the time to think. Don't worry.
To give a creative answer. Okay, Hocam, as I said, I don't have time also, but thanks to technology, we can do everything. So they can create an online classroom if they really want to show the progress of their students. So they can organize some activities, or even, so if they don't set up a classroom, they can set up a WhatsApp group, okay? And students can send some videos about the creative product or any sounds. Okay, so it works, I think, trying. So they can do this.
Can I summarize it as, if there is a will, there is always a way?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Defne Hocam is raising her hand. Yes, Defne Hocam.
I don't know, John, I couldn't turn on my thing. I couldn't respond to you a minute ago. You were saying, talking about a task within a limited time.
Yeah.
That task was, was that the one we gave a very short time, like in 1 minute, think about as many ways as possible of using a paperclip.
Yes.
You come up with ideas, and kids come up with a higher number of ideas, and very beautiful ideas. And as we grow up, we lose those ideas. Yeah, that was the one we were talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it was a
Sorry,
very
I
good
could respond.
session, but that sentence always comes back to me. You know, creativity needs time. Creativity needs
It does.
time. You
Yes.
cannot rush people.
Actually,
You
it does.
cannot go, go, go. You cannot do that because then people cannot think. Okay, they need to come up with, they feel that they're
Yes.
obliged to come up with a quick answer and then they lose their creativity. But most of our teachers do that.
Yeah,
Teacher wait
unfortunately. Yeah.
time is so short in the classroom, unfortunately.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
So
thank you
that's
very
why
much
our
for
learners feel stressed and depressed.
definitely. I remember one of the an anecdote, but I'm not going to tell the anecdote here. I'm just going to ask you guys a question. Imagine that you're in a restaurant and you have a salt shaker and a pepper shaker on the table. But in the shaker that has P on it, there's salt. And the shaker that has S on it has pepper in it. Now, you're so annoyed with this, okay? Salt has to be in the S shaker and pepper has to be in the P shaker.
Okay.
How would you change the contents of these two shakers?
So I don't change. I ask the waiter to change them.
Yeah, that is a joke. In fact, I read yesterday, I believe, a group of higher level business people were sitting at a restaurant and they noticed this and they got really annoyed and they called the waitress and said, "Oh my God, this is unacceptable. We want a piece of napkin and we want a drinking straw and we want this and we want that." And the waitress said, okay, don't worry about it. And she just changed the covers of two shakers. So moved P to pepper and S to salt. So sometimes creativity does not require higher thinking skills. It just requires practical thinking. That was a very nice anecdote. I don't know whether it was real or not, but yeah, I mean, sometimes we try too hard to be creative and then we lose the practicality parts.
Yes.
I believe. Okay. Creativity is intelligence having fun. Yes, Sibel Hocam, that's a nice, very nice contribution. And Sibel Hocam says, I'm not saying it, Einstein said it. I don't know. I haven't heard this before, Sibel Hocam. Are you sure that Einstein said this?
I think he did.
Yeah, you know, I love picking on my colleagues like that. Okay, yeah.
Hocam, what about trying something like this? So the interaction of different age groups and interest groups. So do you think that they can produce something original? So let's say somebody's working in a school that's a combination of primary and secondary school. So if we match students from primary and secondary, so do you think that they can create something original or interesting?
Is this question for me? Or do you
For
have
everybody?
Okay. Well, I personally think they can. However, because of some other reasons, I would never put children together with adults. There are some other reasons for that. It has nothing to do with creativity, because after a certain age, mindset changes. So some things children are not aware are the things that adolescents can never forget about. So it's a better idea to keep them apart,
Okay. Okay,
But
hocam.
other than that, I think Darüşşafaka does it very successfully. They have sisters and elder sisters and elder brothers helping younger children. And I don't know how it works, but from the movies or from the promotional videos that I watched, it works just fine. I mean, they can interact perfectly well. Orhan Hocam has another question. I guess he's raising his hand. Yes, Orhan Hocam.
Yes.
Hocam, I want to share something that I read many years ago in a psychology book about creativity, if you let me. In an art class, the teacher comes to class every day and asks students to draw anything they want, anything that they want. And one of the students is a very good at drawing, actually. And he draws, I mean, beautiful things, magnificent things. Sometime later, his father was appointed to another city. And in this city, our teachers come into the class every day. In one lesson, he puts a chair on the desk and asks students to draw it. The boy tries, but never perfect. Second day, he's coming to the class and puts a vase on the table and again asks them to draw. And sometime later, his father comes back to his old city, and the boy starts to his own school, old school. And again, the same art teacher is coming to the class and asks students to draw anything that they want. But the boy cannot draw anything.
That's sad.
So
sad.
So if we dictate our students to do this and that, we kill their creativity, actually. But we never, I mean, we sometimes cannot realize this. But that's why I asked Esma Hocam this question. I mean, setting them free, I mean, actually fosters their creativity. That's my story that I read and wanted to share with you. So when we leave the students as free themselves, they create wonderful things.
Yeah, true. Well, that's a very sad story. Ali Hocam has shared two excellent quotations here. Ali Hocam, would you like to say them out loud for us? Are you there?
Good evening, Aydın Hocam. My background is not appropriate because my kids are playing around me. So if there's an unexpected noise, I'm sorry in advance. I just found them on internet, just Googled it, and I liked it. So I decided to share them. Creativity involves breaking out of expected patterns in order to look at things in a different way. And the other one, it is impossible to explain creativity. It's like asking a bird, how do you fly? You just do it. This is really funny and well explained. So thank you very much, Hocam. Good evening.
Thank you very much for your contribution. That's a wonderful question. How do you fly? I just do it. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess, as the Hocam says, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish, oh yes, Remember that cartoon where all animals are expected to climb up a tree to be evaluated? I know, yeah. Well, thank you guys for contributing to this talk. Esma Hocam has given us a wonderful topic to discuss. And I guess we all have this burning desire to foster this creativity on part of our students, but I don't think that we had the opportunity. Maybe from now on, we will try harder and we will try more, I don't know, to come up with activities that will trigger creativity. Esma Hocam, thanks a million for this brilliant
Thank you.
presentation. And
Thank
my
you.
dear colleagues, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for coming and joining our event. And hopefully I will see you next week. Esma Hocam, would you like to say bye-bye?
Before leaving, can I take a photo?
Of course, of course. Guys,
Okay,
smile.
So smile. Okay, so I love Inget family. So I feel honored to be here and to present here and meet my colleagues again.
You're
So
a part of Inget family.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
So,
take
have a
very
nice-
good care of yourselves, guys. I love you all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.